Good morning, everyone. So I'm Tracey Helton Mitchell, and I'm the Consumer and Family Member Coordinator for Community Behavioral Health Services. So just a little bit about my background. So I am a person who's been doing peer-to-peer advocacy and peer work for 14 years. So I'm a mental health peer, a substance abuse peer. In my long ago past, I was homeless here in San Francisco and accessed many, many services. And so there was a change that came around 14 or 15 years ago where the system really began investing in training peers to do the work with other peers. And so I used to be the director of an agency called the SAGE Project that specifically worked with people who have trauma issues, substance abuse issues, and I worked with women and girls, trans people and men around their issues with trauma. And so today I'm here to do my presentation is around creating a safe space. In creating a safe space, we really want to look at our environment, the environment within ourselves, the people around us, whether we're bringing negativity into our space, because a lot of time when we've survived trauma or addiction or we've had different mental health challenges, things that have happened in our life, we take on other people's stuff, and that adds to our own burden. And so this is the time of year, wintertime, the holidays, wherever you want to call it, we're invested again in taking on other people's stuff. So I want to invite you today to be gentle to yourself. This is the time of year where we really need to focus on self-care, self-awareness, and looking into the new year reflection and thinking about taking care of ourselves. So the first thing in creating a safe space is removing negativity from our space. So when we think about our space, whether it's our personal space, our boundaries, or it's our space where we live in, whether you live in an SRO, you share a room, you have your own place, what are the things in your space that are keeping you from being able to relax? So when you come in and you think about and you visualize your sanctuary, wherever it is you go and you try to relax, what are the things in your space that are blocking you from being able to relax and unwind and be the person that you want to be? Is there clutter in your space? Are there things in your space that are triggering you? So one of the things that we know about trauma and anxiety is that it can be a smell, it can be music, it can be pictures, it can be anything in our space that's re-triggering us. And we may not even be aware of those things that are re-triggering us. So part of removing the trauma from our life, it may not just be removing the event from our life, the abuser from our life, the space from our life. It might be looking at our personal space and thinking, what are the things from my space that are triggering me? So I can just, speak for myself that I can't listen to there's certain music I choose not to listen to. There's, getting rid of pictures of exes. On your Facebook page, you have people that you're friends with that actually are very negative, and you see those things coming up in your daily life. So there's all these different, is there responding to family members? Are people calling you in the middle of the night with their drama? Are we bringing that home with us? Is that something that in creating our safe space, are there different things that we can get out, remove from that? And then another thing that we've talked a lot about with the peers is when you're sitting at home at night, what are the things that you're watching on TV? So I know for myself, and these are all choices. These are all choices that we make. So are you choosing to watch the news before you go to bed? Are you watching the first 48? Are you watching things that are bringing more negativity into your space? So part of having a good day the next day is what are the things that we're taking into our sleep? And so we have to think about it. Am I blocking off a time for myself every night where I just get to relax and be myself and do whatever it is, pursue whatever interests I want to do? Is it knitting or reading, or is there something that I want to do? So really creating a safe space for ourselves. And there's research that shows if you're doing computer work or if you're looking at a little white screen like a TV or a computer or your iPhone or your whatever kind of phone that you have, it signals the brain to tell it that it's still daytime, and it makes it harder for you to go to sleep at night. So, and that's something I'm guilty of frequently. And then also, one of the things we notice with people who've experienced a lot of trauma is that they have really poor eating habits. So my commitment for the new year for myself last year was that I was going to stop stuffing my feelings with food. So it's not I'm going to go on a diet. It's not I'm going to go on some restrictive food plan, but for 1 year I'm going to try to stop stuffing my feelings with food. And thinking about, before I put these things in my body, what are my feelings? Just taking a few seconds to do some kind of conscious eating, some choices. And one of the things I noticed in the past years is that I lost 20 pounds just from doing that. Because for myself, being a person who, was diagnosed as having mental health issues as 10 years old, being in therapy, seeing psychologists, having a trauma history, food has always been my go-to thing. So if you take away the drugs, what do I have left? My food. Or if you take away personal drama, dramatic relationships, or whatever kind of chaos I create in my life, then I have my food. And one of the things that they also show is that if you're stuffing your face with food before you go to sleep, it's also creating eating problems. It's sleeping problems. It can create digestive problems. So just giving what are the things that am I doing? Am I eating sugar before I go to bed? Am I craving salt? Because the snake brain, the brain that relates to trauma, craves sugar, fat, and salt. And those are the things I always want to eat. Is there goldfish in the house? Can I eat those? Whatever the different things are. So part of removing the negativity in my space is having some kind of conscious living where I'm consciously looking around my space. Because I can't control what happens outside of my space. What happens outside on the street corner, what happens with other people's relationships that they're trying to call me up. Because I work in the counseling field, you'd be surprised how many people who are so-called normal people want to put you aside to talk about all their different divorces, their sexual addiction issues, their different problems that they're having. And sometimes I have to say, I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm not going to answer the text messages. I'm just going to have this time for myself. And as a mother of 3 really small children, that can be very difficult. But as a trauma survivor, that's something that I have to do for myself. What is one thing you could remove from your life today or add to your life that would help you create a safe space? So moving on to the next portion, so tips and techniques for healing. So how are you getting your feelings out? There was a new study that just came out, I was just reading about yesterday, they're trying to investigate whether there's a link between anger and anxiety. So one of the things that I've noticed in my own life is that the more I'm stuffing my feelings, the more anxious I'm feeling. So what are the things that I'm using to cope with my feelings? So if I have anger at this other person, and a lot of times if we've survived trauma in our lives, we're not able to address that person. So how am I dealing with my own anxiety? So, and there's different things that people have turned to. And, some people have a spiritual program or a spiritual advisor or someone that they connect with. So everyone's process is different. So right now I have acupuncture seeds in my ears because I had worked on the transgender health fair last week, and it was very stressful running around. And I noticed more and more I had forgot they were there, but in this past week, knowing I was doing this presentation, I'm pushing on those seeds. Hello, what's going on? Because I'm feeling, I'm having these different things come up in my life, and when I'm feeling anxious, if I don't stuff my feelings with food and I don't act out, then I'm forced to sit with myself and deal with my feelings. So, and sometimes I'm okay with that, and sometimes I'm not. So if you have the ability to taking a hot bath or a hot shower, sometimes just in your own space, being able to unwind and really, what is the process? Have you developed a process for yourself? Is a whole nother question. Do you have tips or techniques for healing? And so another, I could talk about emotional freedom technique. It's a whole nother process that people use. But basically, there are different tapping points that people use, and there's a whole system of tapping. You can look up the videos on YouTube. There's books about it where it's similar to either acupressure. They're not sure if it's like more of a behavioral thing or it's just a process of really helping people go into a different space. But there are different tapping points all over your body where you then, like I frequently tap on this point, and sometimes I think it's it's time for me to wake up point. It's time for me to snap out of it. Because I can notice myself dissociating or going to a totally different place or becoming anxious. Like even, when you're riding on the bus, when you're out in different people, there's 80 to 100 different people here. It could be anxiety provoking. So it's easy for me to be up here in a lot of ways, but it's hard for me to be in the crowd because I feel anxious. So, and for me, that was something that my therapist recommended, was emotional freedom technique. And so like I said, the tapping points are going to be covered. But, another thing is, if you are already feeling anxious or you have these different things going on in your life, the food that you choose. So I notice a lot of times people they're saying, I'm having these problems with anxiety or paranoia, at the same time they're sitting there drinking coffee. Well, what is that? What is that? It's something that, perhaps you could, or they're eating sugar or chocolate or whatever. That's the first thing I went into. My go-to thing to turn to is chocolate. But I've had to switch from the chocolate cake to 2 dark chocolate squares, because I just want to stuff my feelings with food, and then I feel more anxious because of, then I feel like crap because I've stuffed my feelings with food. So then it's a vicious cycle. Then I'm beating myself up. And if we're trying to be gentle to ourselves, then one of the things we do is just being accepting of ourselves. So part of the exercises I challenge you today, what is the process for me just being accepting of myself, whatever that is. And then journaling. So there's journaling, there's writing your thoughts down. I also have a YouTube channel where I answer people's questions about addiction, which some people, may not be familiar with YouTube, but different people have contacted me over the years, nationally and internationally, about different work that I've done. And so I set up a YouTube channel where I do some journaling, and then people respond to my journaling. I'm also a member of a few online groups where a lot of times you may not feel comfortable sharing your feelings with other people, but you may be willing to write it out and just put it out in the universe. Or writing it out and going to Ocean Beach and burning it. Or whatever that process is, making a rock garden with all your different words that you want and having it set up in your space in your room. And, something that I think a lot of us, especially around this time of year, have issues with is accepting and embracing our good days. So maybe 5 days of the week I'm having issues, but when I have a really good day, the other day I was walking down the street and something caught my eye. And I was thinking, I'm so busy, I can't even stop to look at the thing that caught my eye. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to stop and look at whatever it is that is. So taking time for ourselves to pursue whatever interest it is. And I went and I looked, and then I started walking, and then I was feeling the breeze, and then I was looking at the trees, and then I was thinking about, the different trees that people have planted in different parts of San Francisco. And it became this whole thing where I wasn't just in my zone of doing whatever it is I wanted to do, but I was actually living and enjoying the moment. And for that moment, I was transported to a totally different place where I could just play and be myself, and it's wonderful. And so giving ourselves the opportunity, no matter what has happened in our lives, just to play and be ourselves. Appreciating, taking a moment, boy, this water tastes good, whatever it is. The walk here, it's so nice to take the walk here. Oh, I've lived in San Francisco all this time, but I've never even looked at that, whatever it is. Because we have this whole big universe that we're part of, and instead of seeing all of it as being negative, what about looking at the positive part of the universe? So I have these cats. I have the evil attack cat, and then I have the other nice cat. And so I've noticed as the older cat, as the evil cat has gotten older, because he used to bite people, so we called him the evil cat, but he's not actually an evil cat. Well, he is sort of. But so we actually have a sign up in our at our house that says attack cat. But I've noticed as he's gotten older, he's needed me more. He used to be really independent, but now he wants to come sit on me. And I was thinking as he was sitting on my lap the other day, I'm just appreciating having the cat sitting on my lap. And he's just appreciating being with me. And who knows how much longer this is going to last, because in a second he might start biting me. But for right now, I'm just going to appreciate having him sitting on my lap. Or spending time with the dog. I look at the dog. Our dog is actually a rescue from Hurricane Katrina, so I used to think, well, we're in the same boat, girl, okay? You and me. We're both refugees from a whole other world. And so she was actually rescued from a crack house, and then she was in the hurricane, so she had a double whammy. And so she came and lived with us, and she was traumatized, and so having this relationship with the dog, and sometimes I forget it. There's all these things that are placed into my life to help me feel better, but I just ignore them because I'm so busy. I'm so busy zoning out on my phone or trying to get all this work done or whatever. So it's like it's trying to take time for the things in my life that help me heal, whatever those are. And then another, just a short little exercise that we used to do at Sage, and they do with refugees all around the world, is the butterfly hug. So if everyone wants to participate, if we could just take time to hug ourselves. So you cross your arms. And so they say trauma gets stuck in our mind like a kidney stone. And so part of doing the butterfly hug is tapping each side of ourselves alternately and just telling yourself in an affirmation, I'm okay. So you can tap your points up here, or you can just hold your arms, and you're just telling yourself, in this moment, in this space, I'm okay. And if you notice, a lot of times little kids rock back and forth and hug themselves. They learn how to, and as we as adults, we actually should learn more from children because they teach us a lot. So the next part of our presentation is about taking our safe space with us. So we know we have to go out into the world and deal with people on an everyday basis. And so I want to encourage people actually to do that, because I know there was many times, especially in early recovery, especially when I first moved into my transitional housing in the Tenderloin, where I spent no time with anyone. I would go to my meetings, I would go to work, and I would go home, and that was it. Or I would see my therapist, and I would go to meetings, and maybe I'd go to the movies and not talk to anyone, and then I would go home. So are there pictures that you can take with you? I actually have there's a Meditate app you can put on your phone. I have a Just for Today app on my phone. I used to carry around in early recovery flashcards that were affirmations. Do we have affirmations? So the affirmations I used to teach the women at Sage, a simple affirmation is, I am enough. Just myself. I am enough. So creating an affirmation for yourself. Is it posted in your office? Is it in your purse? A lot of times I carry around little baby socks or little toys, because when I'm caught in that zone, all of a sudden I go to this nice place where I think about my children, or I think about being with them, or I think about their soft skin, or I think about some place that we went. I have, rocks and toys and different things set up in my space at home. And so are there things that you, taking your safe space with you, is there something on a daily basis that you can think about that can help you take your safe space with you? That can help either relieve your anxiety or transport you to another place. So my grandmother, she was schizophrenic, but she also was a painter. And so she had this, fabulous life. But in my office at 1380 Howard is a picture that she did in San Francisco in the 50s. And sometimes when different things are happening, I'll look, and it's actually a view of California Street in the 50s. And it's almost like I'm transported to another place, because I think about what the clothes look like or what it was like, because there's no bridge. There's all these things that are missing. And so part of taking your safe space with you is just for giving yourself permission just for a moment to just relax and be happy. So, and sometimes that can, honestly, it can take a lot of work. So the final section is finding support for yourself. So therapy is, that's a good intervention for a lot of people. I personally have been in and out of therapy for a long time, but when I had specific trauma issues, I had the opportunity to work with what's called an EMDR therapist, where they do specific work around trauma. Do you have a spiritual practice? Is there something that you do? For some people, a spiritual practice is yoga. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's going to church, participating, reading literature, reading your Bible, reading whatever it is that you're in particular that helps you find a place within yourself where you can find support. So going out in nature. So I challenge everyone, sometime in the next week, maybe today, when you go outside, what does it feel like? What does the air feel like? What does the sun feel like? It's a really beautiful day and the sun's out. We all can use more vitamin D out in the sun. So taking some time just to be outside, wherever that is. If you don't like your area outside, go somewhere else. Find some other place where you feel comfortable being outside. So do you have friends to talk to? For some people, it's friends. They find a support group, whether it's at 1380 Howard or some other support group in the community. And for some people, it's an online support group. So for many, many years, for I think 5 or 6 years now, I've participated in an online support group for mothers. And so people talk about whatever it is that's going on with them, and they feel like they have a certain amount of anonymity. So if you're having different things in your life, there's a possibility of finding support if you don't feel like you connect with people And for myself, I didn't necessarily feel like I connected with certain people, but I had an opportunity to share my experience with people, and they were supportive for me. So that's just one possibility. And then finally today, in terms of finding support, being gentle to yourself. So if nothing else from my presentation today, finding a way to be gentle to yourself, whatever that means. Give yourself a break, as they say.